simple and perceived among the youths along a young man lacking sense. So he's talking about a young and simple men who don't know any better. Okay, or maybe know better, but they don't guard themselves. They don't consider the danger. And so they get ensnared by her. And she uses everything she can to ensnare him. And so he says at the end of verse 25, "Let not your heart turn aside to her ways. Do not stray into her paths." Okay, so just no. Okay, don't even go near her. Don't go anywhere near it. Don't flirt with temptation. Then in chapter 8, we have 8 and 9, we have this long discourse, which isn't a new lesson. It continues from lesson 7, and it has this long discourse about how great wisdom is. And at the very end then of chapter 9, there's a short section about folly. So in 8 and 9, I put up here a chart that just kind of goes through some of the contrasts between wisdom and folly. And what we see is these similar descriptions can be applied to the descriptions of folly can be described also of the prostitute and the adulterous woman. So that's why I was saying before, we have kind of this, don't go to the prostitute, don't commit adultery. Okay, why? Be faithful to your wife, remember chapter 5. Okay, so you've got that in real life, but then he also uses all of that to symbolize wisdom and folly. And if you remember chapter 1, verse 2, we said one of the purposes of the book is to know wisdom, and I said that some people look at that as the knowledge of the relationship between a man and his wife, that intimate relationship. That the book of Proverbs wants us to have that kind of relationship with wisdom, but not an intimate relationship at all with folly, but to refrain from evil. So here we have just the chart. Folly's on the left, folly versus wisdom. Wisdom's on the right. Yeah, left and right. And folly calls in the darkness, wisdom calls in the light of day, when you read verses 7 and chapter 7 and chapter 8. Folly is sexually loose, wisdom pursues holiness and righteousness and uprightness. Folly is faithless. She doesn't care about anybody. Wisdom is faithful. Folly is heartless. I guess she doesn't care about anybody. She's not true to anybody. Where wisdom is emblematic of true love. There's fleeting pleasure with folly, but there's everlasting blessedness with wisdom. Folly is selfish, wisdom serves. Folly leads to death and destruction, and wisdom is a house of life, is the phrase that Solomon uses. So there's this real distinction, but you can look at people through the same lens as well. And so Solomon seems to be doing two things at the same time in these chapters. So that's why it's kind of hard to simplify all that. So Lady Wisdom and folly. Folly is the forbidden woman, and wisdom is the adorable woman. Now, by adorable, I mean she's worthy of adoration. And I was recently reading a book where a young man is adoring this young woman because he thinks she's wonderful. But she didn't know how to, she could not receive, actually in the book, she was unable to receive his adoration. She had no idea what it meant to be adored. And so he gets mad at her. But anyway, that's why I chose the word adorable. She's worthy of our adoration. And so this brings us to the ultimate choice. We either flirt with folly or we learn to love wisdom. And in the notes, the very last paragraph, I say, as believers prepare to learn wisdom from the book of Proverbs, This is all about preparing ourselves. The ultimate decision, which wisdom is always distinguishing between two things, the ultimate decision is whether they will flirt with folly or set their heart on wisdom. And I use that phrase, set their heart on wisdom, or to love wisdom. And so with these, I didn't do a summary slide, but working through chapters 1 through 9, we ask ourselves these questions to see, kind of a self-assessment. Are we prepared to study Proverbs and to be wise? Do we have the right attitudes to do that? And that's kind of what these chapters set us up to do. So any thoughts or questions on that? I see that Sunday school's out back there. But comments, observations? No? So Lord willing, next week, I think I picked money to talk about. It's a very broad topic. I tried to leave it broad. But we'll look through the book of Proverbs, all the way through it, like chapter 6 talks about it, and see what the book of Proverbs talks about for being wise with our money. So if there's nothing else, Daryl, would you like to close us in prayer? Amen.